It's always a good time when I got my boy Paulie Mac with me. We're going to get into it. We're talking Team USA. They just lost and previewing the Golden State Warriors next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. My guest this morning, he's too cool for social media, but you can listen to him 5 days a week, hosting one of the most popular morning shows in the country, the Murph and Mac Show on KNBR in San Francisco. Paul McCaffrey, how are you doing, my brother? How do you get up so early every day? God damn, this is early, man. For me.
No, bro. Oh, dude. And by the way, you know what's crazy? It's early for Cyrus, and for me, it's actually getting late. This is like the end of
nap time. We're coming up on nap time for you. How are you doing, man? And like we're recording this on Friday at like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's Friday, September 8th. Jesus, where's life going? Dude, you surprised me with this news. I didn't know Team USA was going to play this morning. I thought it was tomorrow for some reason. I'm not following Team USA as closely as I should, but they just lost. Yeah. And I'm looking right now. They lost to Germany, man, in the semifinals, so they're not going to get gold. They lose 113-111. And I'm looking at the box score right now, dude, and I want to start on this topic, Paulie, besides telling myself in the audience how the hell you've been. Tell us about the morning show. But what are your thoughts on Steve Kerr and the fact that like he just doesn't seem to like bigs anymore, man? I'm looking at the box score right now of this game. Walker Kessler, their only like true natural center, didn't even play. Paolo Banchero, 17 minutes. Brandon Ingram did not play at all. Cam Johnson only played 4 minutes. It's like, so they went with this like super small lineup for most of the game. They get beaten on the offensive glass by 5. They got out-rebounded overall 30-28. They lose this game by 2. What do you think is going on with Steve Kerr, man? Why does he hate big players now, dude? Like, he turned into Don Nelson. How you doing?
It's a good question, Cyrus. And like yourself, I got to be honest and say I didn't see the game live because Murph and I were in the middle of our show, but I had the scoreboard up with the ticker, so I was getting updates as the game unfolded. And it was not. I mean, Germany had a lead pretty much for the final, I don't know, 10 minutes or so of the second half, and it just didn't feel good. The U.S. was down by 5. They were down by 7. They finally cut it to 2, and then time ran out. I can't speak about why Steve Kerr seems to have an opposition to throwing a big out there, especially when you have Brandon Ingram just sitting on the bench. I like Brandon Ingram. I think he's really developed into a pretty good NBA player. That's the kind of guy I would throw on the floor if they did need size. But all I know, Cyrus, is anytime the U.S. loses on the world stage in basketball, I feel like I hate to be like this dramatic, but it is an embarrassment. Like we should be going out there wiping the floor with essentially any other country that wants to come our way. Now, to be fair, Cyrus, would you say, I'll ask you a question. Like, it doesn't appear to me that like Steve Kerr was armed with the best players he could go over there with. So would you give him any leeway just considering the roster he had?
No. And why is because I'm looking at like all the players on the roster who played in this game that they lost. Yeah. And like the only bit so Jaren Jackson Jr. is the only other big that I didn't mention. And Jaren Jackson Jr. played 19 minutes. Who played more than him? Jalen Brunson, who's small. Anthony Edwards, who's small. Josh Hart, who has become like their power forward for some reason. He played more minutes. Mikal Bridges, who's a wing, played more. Tyrese Halliburton, who's a point guard, played more. Austin Reeves played more. Like he just did. No, I will put some blame on Steve Kerr for this because he has this aversion to bigs and none of his bigs played. And when you look at the number of NBA players between these two teams, I mean, Germany's coming in with Daniel Tiess, who's a big as their center, then Dennis Schroeder, Franz Wagner, and Mo Wagner. Those are the extent of your NBA players, man. So I'm with you. U.S. should have won. The U.S. should have won.
Cyrus, let me ask you another question because it is interesting. I haven't really thought about it like through this lens that you're talking about, where Steve Kerr seems to be like have some kind of aversion to bigs. With that in mind, and with that being said, are you? And I don't know how I feel. I have like mixed feelings about this, but how do you feel? Because I don't know that we've spoken about this since it went down, and I realized it was a while ago. But were you of the belief that maybe the Warriors should have held on to James Wiseman? They're only really true big I've seen come through here maybe since, Zaza, who was good enough to win a title with the Warriors. But to have a young big like that and ship him out, maybe slightly nervous. I don't know. What was your feeling on that whole situation?
Well, we heard Bob Myers last year complain publicly. This isn't even like something that you and I are applying conjecture to. We're not applying our own opinion to. Bob Myers publicly blasted Steve Kerr last year for his aversion to playing bigs. He made a public statement at a press conference where he said something, and don't quote me verbatim. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the extent of, "What's the point of us bringing in a big here if our coach is never going to play him?" Right? Wow. And then you look at the James Wiseman thing. I don't have a strong opinion in terms of whether or not Wiseman would have been good, is going to be good. I don't know, man. But the fact that we never saw him play real minutes, that bothers me a little bit. Like the fact that we never really got a proper sample size to judge the man gives me pause. Like the last time we saw James Wiseman play real minutes, it was like an 8-minute outing last Christmas where they beat the Grizzlies. That was like a marquee game at the time, because John Morant last summer was talking about that Christmas game. It comes up that James Wiseman plays great in this game. They simplified things for him. All he did was play defense and rebound, and he did a solid job doing that. And then we never saw him again. He got traded soon after. I don't know what's going on, man. What are your thoughts on Mike Dunleavy Jr., by the way, dude? What's your first impression of him?
That's a great question. Now, again, it sounds like inside the building, they think he's the right guy. Apparently, he's very polished. I guess it's become important now in the NBA, and it does make sense with the players having so much power now to basically dictate, like, I don't want to play here anymore. Get me out of here. Or I want to go play with Kyrie, or whatever the case is. The players have a very loud voice now.
Yes, they do.
And I think with that in mind, they think that Dunleavy is a guy that can communicate with the players like on their level, like where they won't view Dunleavy as just another suit and tie. I think that's the hope. We got to wait and see how this thing plays out. But let me go back to the big. I got one more thing on bigs for you.
Please, dude, please.
I actually have a concern. Now, I expect the Warriors to have a very good year. I think you're going to see a very focused kind of effort from the jump this year, where last year they were just kind of giving games away. They're very lazy about wins and losses until it got too late.
Yep.
And then they couldn't put it together. But Cyrus, you know what concerns me? Even with a hyper-focused Warriors team, let's say they have a good season and go north of 50 wins, I am concerned about what happens. Like, what is the Warriors' answer to a big like the Joker? Like the joke, it's his league right now. It's his league, and no one has an answer for the Joker. And I wonder when the Warriors have that matchup again, because it probably would happen in the playoffs. What's the answer for the Joker? Like, how do they combat that size with what they have?
Dude, there's a few teams out there that have been like first of all, Nikola Jokic has been an exceptional player, man. One of, if not the best players in the NBA over the last few years.
Agreed.
And he just got a ring. Like, I, on this show, emphasize the drastic importance of world championship experience as, an attribute, as a variable for a player being just, successful in this game. He just added a ring. So he's better than he's ever been coming into the next year. And I'm expressing the exact same concerns you do. Like, JaVale McGee was just available on the free agent market. The Warriors didn't do a thing. To me, the Warriors are a player short right now. I'm with you. I don't know what the answer is for Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis. The end of game answer is Draymond Green, right? Like, Draymond has proven he can do it, but you can't play him on these other bigs for the entirety of the game, dude. He's going to wear out. He's going to get into foul trouble. So I don't know what the answer is, bro. I like Trace Jackson Davis is a rookie.
Yeah.
If you're putting that impetus on him, that's kind of crazy. Dario Saric has never been a defensive specialist. But, dude, you host the morning show at KNBR. What are you folks saying, man? You're as insider as they get. What are your feelings on this, bro? Like, I'm with you. I'm concerned. What are your thoughts on this in the big picture?
Well, like I said, I do think you're going to see like a kind of a resetting of focus with the big dogs. Like, I think you're going to see it from Steph. I think you're going to see it from Draymond. And from there, I think the rest of the team will pick up on that they're not going to mess around in the regular season again. I really mean that. I think you're going to see a much better regular season from this team. And I think they also realize home court is important. You can't just waltz into another gym. These guys are getting older. I think Klay Thompson is set up to have a better year than he had last year. But again, it's the pieces around the big three that I start to wonder about, because as again, we just talked about, as it stands right now, Cyrus, I don't think they have an answer for Jokic. I don't for Jokic. And I'm not sure that you can out Joker the Joker by going small. I don't know that's going to work. And it also, what's interesting, Cyrus, you look back 2 years ago when the Warriors won their title against Boston, to my recollection, they actually got through Denver rather handily. What was that, a 6-game series? I think Denver got through.
It was
5. 5. Thank you. It was 5. So you look back at that and you say, like, okay, well, how did the Warriors get it done that year? And what don't they have now that they had then? Because that would be a good reference point to say, well, they have beaten them in the postseason, but as currently constructed, I don't know that you can see that again unless they bring in some help or unless some personnel changes come. I don't know that they can. I don't.
I'm with you, dude. And when we come back, I'm going to add to that because I've been thinking about that a lot. It's like, what happened in 2022 that the Warriors won the title and what's changed? I've been thinking about that. And I want to add on to what you just said there and obviously pick your brain because about Steve Kerr. Because look, man, the Warriors have pushed all their chips in on the Steve Kerr side of the table, man. Like they believe in him. He won this proxy battle behind the scenes with Bob Myers. I mean, Myers is gone. It's Steve Kerr's show. So I'm going to pick your brain on that. We got a lot more to talk about after we get some love first to FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. And look, man, it is football season right now. We just had our first NFL game of the season last night. The Lions pulling off a huge upset in KC over the Chiefs. But, bro, look, we're in the Bay Area, man. This is all about the 49ers. I believe they're in Pittsburgh for the season opener. Dude, you're the flagship station of the San Francisco 49ers. I know right now this is much more in your wheelhouse in terms of the subject matter. Yeah. How are you feeling, bro? How are you feeling about Sunday, dude? How are you feeling about the Niners? And include the gambling aspect of it, because that's all people talk about now. Your thoughts?
I will. So first of all, it's really interesting. I feel really good about the 49ers this year. I know there's a 2.5-point spread in this game where the Niners are road favorites. They're giving Pittsburgh 2.5. I always go into any game against the Mike Tomlin coach team with a lot of respect and a lot of caution. Now, Pittsburgh isn't flashy, but they know how to compete. And Mike Tomlin's guys are always prepared. But you know what, dude? When you look at the weapons the Niners are coming with now, like Brandon Ayuk, by the way, led the team in receptions, led the team in touchdowns last year. So you got to account for Brandon Ayuk. I think Deebo Samuel is going to have a really good year. He was unhappy with the way he performed last year, as he should be. So I think Deebo is going to be a problem for Pittsburgh. Ayuk is a problem. Here comes George Kittle. There's Christian McCaffrey. Oh, by the way, we got Elijah Mitchell. I think they have too many weapons for the Steelers to contend. So I like the Niners on the road. I'll give them the 2.5. I feel like it's like a 20-13 kind of game where the Niners get out of there with a win. But I got a quick funny story for you, Cyrus, about Bob Myers and the 49ers. And I only learned this today. This is really wild. So we had a conversation with John Lynch today, and he was saying, we were talking about the Nick Bosa signing and how long it went on for and whether or not he got nervous. You want to hear something really crazy? John Lynch told us on the air today that he had a really meaningful conversation with Bob Myers during the holdout about how to cope with it, how to get the deal done, and how to finally get the guy signed. And John Lynch said Bob Myers was like an invaluable resource in that whole process, just like as a confidant, just as a guy to talk to. And I thought that was really interesting. He said Bob Myers called him and said, hey, let's talk about this, and maybe I can help you out a little bit. And I don't know. I just want to tip my cap to Bob because apparently he had his hands in the mix there, getting Bosa re-signed. Pretty cool.
That is cool, man. Bob Myers is going to be on the NBA Countdown panel this coming season. I feel like the Warriors are going to miss him, man. I mean, when it comes to personal relationships, like Bob is who Draymond would always respect and listen to and go to. That's going to be missing this season for the Warriors, man. That Nick Bosa story doesn't surprise me at all, man. It just goes to show how solid and high quality Bob Myers is when it comes to personal relationships, right? Like he is a savant in the communications field. So doesn't surprise me, but thank you for that nugget, dude. That little
Pretty
breaking
cool.
news right there.
Yeah.
And look, the FanDuel Sportsbook has the 49ers favored by 2.5. You heard what Paulie just said. Go with the Niners minus 2.5. Do you have an opinion on the over-under, which the FanDuel Sportsbook is listing at 41.5? Any opinions there? Any thoughts?
It's my gut feeling. I'm always a little less comfortable trying to predict point totals and overs and unders, but if I had to, I might take the under in this one. I think that maybe high 30s will be scored. I don't know if they're going over 40. That's just me, Cyrus. I go under.
Right.
Yeah.
No, there you go. That's all you could ask for is just, your thoughts. And that was Paulie's right there, referring to the line, the over under of Niners and Steelers. And look, what you want to bet on, get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets.
Nice.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
I stole that from Barkley. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every dayers. We're going to have a lot more to cover on this program. I'm going to follow up this show with another detailing Team USA's surprising loss to Germany in the semifinals. But right now, I got Paul McCaffrey, host of the Murph and Mac Show on KNBR, one of the biggest morning shows in the entire country. And Paulie, I want to share with you my concern, and let me know if you feel this or not. My concern is that the Warriors have gone all in on Steve Kerr. And I've become synonymous with being maybe a little overly critical of Steve Kerr. And I don't want to be like a Steve Kerr hater. That's the last thing I want to do. I like Steve Kerr. As a person, I love him. I'm not asking for his head.
Right.
For a brief moment there after last season, I was upset because I feel like he bungled management of personnel and the rosters. I still can't believe that Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb were getting minutes over Kuminga and Moody, but I digress. But I'm concerned that the team has gone all in on Steve Kerr, and the small ball thing is a huge concern. I feel like the reason why the Warriors aren't getting bigs is because Kerr believes that smaller players give you more speed and give you more versatility. In fact, Brian Windhorst, I saw him actually write that in an article recently in terms of why Steve Kerr loves these small ball lineups. That's always a big question, right? Why? Like, why do you love these small teams? Well, in this one article just recently, what Brian Windhorst wrote is because Steve Kerr feels when you're smaller, you're also faster, and you also have more versatility on both sides of the ball. But, dude, it's basketball. Like, it's a fundamental old school thing. Bigs give you easy baskets. Bigs make it harder for other teams to score inside. It's just a fundamental advantage to have taller players in basketball. What is your theory on why Steve Kerr just hates playing bigs, or at least he's not very, he doesn't have an affinity for him, certainly. And are you worried about, am I being too critical of Steve Kerr? What are your thoughts, man?
These are all great questions. Now, I think that, if you look back to previous championship winning teams under Steve Kerr, Cyrus, we can't hide from the fact that a lot of those teams had really formidable guys who were bigs down in the paint who had presence.
Yes.
For example, David West. In my opinion, they have not had a nasty physical big presence in the paint since the David West days. And that, I'll tell you, that role is really important. A guy who can go down there, drop anchor. Maybe he's not going to maybe light you up for a double-double, but that's not what Steve Kerr needs from these guys. They need a big who can establish some physicality in the paint and then distribute like Zaza. He was a great distributor. So was Andrew Bogut.
Yep.
Big, nasty big who could also pass the ball and knew how to dish and look for his guys. Now, that's what the team that beat Boston did not have. And that's what the 2022 Warriors did not have either. So I have to agree with you, Cyrus, that to me, I would prioritize going out and somehow, I don't care if it's free agency, however they have to do it, but find somebody who can give you a little nastiness, give you a little physicality, and who can also handle the ball enough to facilitate. And as to your question as to why Steve Kerr has gone away from that, I mean, Cyrus, I'm posing this as a thought. I'm not saying this is a fact, but could it be that when he's looked, and they had Wiseman, but that didn't seem to be a fit for the system? But could it be that Steve Kerr looks around and says, like, I don't see any bigs who can play our style? Like,
that's probably what it is. But my response to that is dude, lighten up on your pickiness. Like stop being so peculiar in terms of who you want to fit your system. You're absolutely right, dude. And to answer what we were talking about a few minutes ago about 2022, like what was different then. One thing that was different is the landscape. Like the Warriors didn't have these massively huge teams to contend with that they do now. The Lakers were not an issue then. The Nuggets were missing. The Nuggets were totally decimated by injuries, so they were thin. And they're not thin now; they're much deeper. But you look at the four teams who made the conference finals in 2022. Bam Adebayo was the only true big out of the four teams, and even he's not really he's like 6'9". He's not a massively huge presence out there. He relies on his skill set as much as athleticism, and so times have changed. And look, they did have Nemanja Bjelica, who is grossly underrated, in my opinion. Like Steve Kerr does love his Euro bigs. There's no doubt about that. Or just his international bigs, right? Where there's Bogut, Zaza Pachulia, Nemanja Bjelica. Hopefully Dario Saric is the answer this season. But yeah, man, it concerns me that the Warriors right now, if Dario Saric doesn't maximize his potential, I think they're in trouble, dude. I really do, man. But that's just me. I don't know. Any thoughts? Anything to add to that? What I just said, or no?
Not necessarily, but let's see how he develops. Like that's a good point. We got to see, and there is a lot of hope pinned on his development. But if he can become the kind of player that can just fill some of the needs we talked about, like can I get a presence down in the paint? Can I move some bodies around, and can I facilitate the ball? If he can do that, and Kerr doesn't ask a lot from his bigs in terms of minutes. Like if you go back to the Bogut days. Bogut would start games, then pretty much go sit down, give you a couple of minutes in the second, and then a little bit in the third. That's all. Like, he's not going to ask you to, be a hero, but he does need somebody to have a presence. So until that is seen on the court, Cyrus, you and I might be having this conversation again down the road.
Well, and just finishing up here, what is your prediction, man? I mean, look, the Warriors made some changes this year. We haven't even talked about Chris Paul. You know, he's – a lot of people think he will fit the Sean Livingston role that they've lost since Livingston left as a backup point guard who can lead that second unit, who can stabilize things. We got Trace Jackson Davis, a rookie that a lot of people love, myself included. We got Dario Saric. What are your feelings, man? We'll wrap up the show with this, dude. Okay. What do you think is going to happen to the Warriors this year? Are they going to be legitimate world championship contenders? Your thoughts?
I think they are. And I do think, and by the way, for the record, dude, I have never been a Chris Paul fan. That was a real tough adjustment for me. But I got to say, I get it. I understand the move because you're right. Since Livingston, or even when they had Barbosa, these kind of veteran guys coming off the bench who can still run the offense without really losing anything.
Yep.
That's a huge help. They didn't have that last year. So that is going to help. Just maintain calm on the court. If you got to have young players out there like Moody and Kuminga, they will be well served to play with a guy like Chris Paul. I think that's going to help their development.
Hell yeah.
And I mean what I said at the beginning, Cyrus. I think Steph Curry will set the tone and set the example because he knows the clock is ticking. Now, he's a world-class athlete, but I think Steph is going to be hyper-focused this year on playing high-level basketball and making sure all the guys around him do that too, where they're not going to be lackadaisical and just hand games away. Cyrus, they did so much of that last year. They gave games away to teams they had no business losing to. And I think that gets cleaned up this year, really based on the urgency of the timeline that Steph, Clay, and Draymond have left. So, yes, I think they are going to be in the mix when it comes to competing for a title. Whether they are good enough to beat the best of the best, we'll have a better sense of that, I think, once the season gets started and we see what they look like. But at this point, based on how things ended last year, those guys don't want to go home in the second round, dude. No. That is not what they're about. So, hopefully that's enough of a bad taste in their mouth that they come out this year all business. And I have a feeling they will, Cyrus.
I've never seen Dub Nation. I know you got to run, man. Real quick before you go. Yeah. I've never seen Dub Nation this displeased, dissatisfied with Draymond Green. He got a lot of people upset at him over this whole Jordan Poole fiasco.
Right.
How are the, you engage with your listeners a lot, man. Like, how are based on your engagement with the Warriors fans on your show, how are people feeling about Draymond Green? Are they souring on him? Is it hyperbolic what I'm seeing on social media versus what reality is?
I think it might be, Cyrus. I think by and large, most Warrior fans want Draymond to be back and want him to be kind of the captain behind the scenes. But I think that as more and more information came out about the Jordan Poole story, I think more people started to gravitate back to Draymond. It didn't look good. Let's face it, dude. Watching him sucker punch Jordan Poole was tough to watch. But once more and more information came out about that, I think people have started to kind of move back to Draymond's side. That's, to answer your question, that's the impression I get from our listeners and the Warrior fans we talk to. Yeah.
Oh, you're the man of the people, Paulie. Anything you want to promote, brother? And before you go, I
want to promote you, dude. Let's do this again, Cyrus. I love seeing you, love having you on, and I love talking Warriors. I'll get you back on my podcast too when the season starts.
Please.
And dude, anytime you need me, let's wrap. I'm always here.
I love it, brother. I love it. That is Paulie Mac. He's the host of the Murph and Mac Show on KNBR, man. Paulie, thank you, brother. Love you, man. And we'll definitely do this again soon.
And shout out Jay Adams.
Peace out, everyone.